Good afternoon, guys. I'm Chris, and welcome back to the very last Rift episode of 2024. Yep, it's New Year's Eve. I popped in today because one of my very good customers, his Hot Rod Deluxe has gone down, and he's gigging tonight, New Year's Eve, and he needs his amp working. So I said I'd pop in, see if we can get this thing up and running. But I've come in actually a couple of hours earlier because I figured I'll come in, I'll film some bits and bobs, get my end of year admin done, and whatnot. So yeah, let's crack on. So as most of you have seen by now, the Rift Christmas special is well and truly in progress. I think you guys are up to episode 9, part 9 now. Where am I up to now? So I'm about 1 month ahead of where you guys are. I started that project back end of November. But by the time you guys have seen it, a whole month have passed. So obviously I'm much further down the line than where you guys are in the video series. I think the next one I need to film is episode 17, or is it 18? One of the two. Yes, so I'm much further down the road. Making good progress on the amp. The response has been absolutely fantastic. So thank you to everyone that's tuned in, watched, subscribed, commented, gave me good suggestions and all those things. It is funny because I did say in the first episode that I was filming this, started back in November, but some of you clearly didn't get the memo because you're still commenting and making suggestions as though I'm doing it live. Which, I have to think back and think, no, hold on a minute. So I get myself confused sometimes. But yeah, it's fantastic. I've really enjoyed doing that amp. I can't wait until it's finally fired up and I can play this thing. Now, I don't want to give too much away because obviously there's a lot of stuff that I've filmed and done and you guys haven't seen yet. But my plan for this amp is kind of twofold. One, I want to keep this thing kind of original spec, or respect the original design, so keeping it ultra linear. My primary use for it will be bass, and I'm going to use it as a bass amp. I'm sure you figured that out by now. But the second channel, the guitar channel, I'm thinking about doing something different with, and eventually further modding it down the line. Now, looking at the comments that some of you guys have made, you've mentioned, there's been a lot of discussion about the chassis and what I should do with it, what I should have done with it, what I shouldn't have done with it, all those sorts of things. You must remember that it's my amp and, I can do what I want with it. It's not a customer's amp, so I'm approaching that project from a different angle and from a different goal point, right? So just bear that in mind. Now, in terms of the looking at the comments from the latest video, some of you're definitely split into two camps. Like some of you have said the amp should have had a new chassis. Some of you have said keep with the chassis, keep the standard chassis, and I'm in that second camp. Reuse the chassis, which is what I've done. But somebody's got in contact with me because he's got an original 135 head shell that is spare, and he's offered it to me free of charge. Amazing, right? So now I'm thinking, well, if I keep the original amp, the project amp, kind of stock and thing, let's build another one, highly modified, and let's do some really cool things with it and stick that in that original head shell. So, and of course that will need a new chassis. Now, they used to make a blank twin reverb chassis. They're the same size chassis, just punched differently, of course. In the correct thickness steel, but they don't anymore. From Tube Town in Germany, I can buy a 2mm thick aluminium chassis, blank twin reverb one, but that's not going to be strong enough for the transformers. There's a guy in the States on eBay who sells a steel chassis, but he's used thinner gauge steel, thinner than the original chassis, when really for those transformers you want to go thicker. You know, we need to go a thicker gauge, not a thinner one, so that's no good either. So I think what I'm going to do is, come the new year when all the fab shops open again, I'm going to speak to one or two and see what it's going to cost me to get some blank chassis made up. I'd probably have to do a minimum of 5, but it is what it is, in a thicker gauge of steel, for maybe a run of these amps, because I think we can do some really cool things with them. But my ones, I think now, at least for the time being, is going to remain kind of stock. I might change it in the future. I probably will. I can't leave well enough alone, you know that. But yeah, it's not a. And the thing is, this isn't a valuable amp. It wasn't popular in the first one. It's the least desirable, the least well thought of amp. You know, it's not a Brown Vibroverb or, you know, something like that. It's not worth a lot of money at all, even in good nick. So, you know, I don't feel bad about tweaking it and messing around with it. But I think maybe I'm going to build another one and mess around and do changes on that one and experiment, because, you know, we all want to learn. So yeah, I think that's what I'm going to do. I think I'm going to have a machine shop bend up some proper thickness steel for a chassis, take it over to my other fab shop and have the correct size transformer cutouts done and all those things. I mean, maybe I don't even do a drop through transformer. Maybe I just do a stand-up one. We'll see. But I've got all these ideas in my head. But for this project amp, I'm just going to, I think, especially in the bass channel, I'm just going to leave it as it's stock, get this thing up and running again, because I want to gig it as it is. Like, you know, that's my. Also, while I'm thinking about it, if anyone else has a really awful condition silver panel amp, you know, a master volume twin reverb or pro reverb, something like that, you know, one of the really undesirable ones, the ones that everyone, you know, puts their noses up at, let me know. I might be interested in buying it. Also, while I've got you, a bit of a shout out, please. I'm on the hunt for one more 70s witch hat knob. Now, Fender did quite a few of these ones over the years, and whilst I stock the modern replacements, they're not quite right. So the correct ones for the late 70s amps have the they don't have a Snowman number 8. They have a standard number 8. They also don't have a grub screw, so it's a push-on style knob. You see that the reissues have the grub screw, but also there's no metal insert inside. All right. Here's another of the originals as well. So if anyone has got a late 70s Fender knob, let me know. I am interested in buying it. I just need one. The other thing I need is the correct logo badge for the cabinet. Excuse me. And it's the one, I think it says made in USA on. So I'll put a picture on the screen. If anyone's got one of those lying around, any other techs or repair places, let me know. I am interested. There is one on eBay now, but if anyone's got one and you want to do a deal on it, please get in touch. repairs@riffdamps.com. Or put it in the comments section below. I might just be interested in buying that from you. Right, Q&A time. So I'm just here stripping down those amplifiers that I showed you back in the train wrecking video. So yeah, I'm trying to recover as many parts as I can, but I've got some interesting questions. I'm not doing any of the questions and comments from the Christmas special. I'm going to do that in a different Q&A, so look out for that when it comes out. But speaking of that, I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a rest from it. So we're going to leave that now. You're not going to get part 10 for probably a couple of days now. Just to give you guys a break. Otherwise, I think it's you know, for some people it's becoming too much. Some of you love the long format stuff. Some of you want more progress done on it. Some of you want shorter videos. I can't please everyone, but what I will do is give you all a break from it when I do some other stuff, or put other videos out, I should say. And then I'll start drip feeding those back in as they arrive. Anyway, so Q&A time. Speaking of the train wreck build, the bright switch is an on, off, on type. Not sure how you will be able to get all three positions with a push-pull. Yes, I realised that after I put that video out. So it's not going to have a push-pull switch. I am going to do a mini toggle as per the original. So I need to mark that on the chassis because I've not drilled it yet. But yeah, good. Thanks for pointing that out. I'm glad you caught it. And we'll see how that goes. Dave Edwards Designs says, just starting my second Trainwreck Express build. I got lucky and found an original Stancor A3801 output transformer. You can still buy the original Pacific transformers direct from Pacific, and yes, I have seen those. Should be fun to compare Pacific versus Stancor. Yeah, so as you can see, though you can buy them direct, they're quite expensive to get here in the UK, but they are a 6K6 primary impedance, which, as you guys know, is pretty much double what you'd normally use for EL 34s. So yeah, let me know how your build goes. I'll be really interested to see, but I'm forging ahead with that Drake transformer. It'd be nice to give that transformer a second lease of life and a really cool amp for it to go into. Bergshaw says, nice to see all come together on the train wreck, and there is a lot of memories and heart and blood even in your prototypes. Well, thank you. Talking about train wrecks, I have to admit there is a part of my soul is also bound to them. Like the other is bonded to my early EVH Brown sounds. And I built myself a small Express preamp, which is hooked up to two EL95 cathode bias power section, boasting with a 5.5 watt, 7 watt clipping, pure train wreck power. So cool. So you did a low watt version. That's nicely manageable and allows full blast without going deaf immediately. Well, yeah. So this is my this is one of the downsides of a Trainwreck Express. Is one, they're loud, and two, you've got to get them loud to really get the best out of them. That's where the magic is. So now I don't mind that. I love loud amps. I think they're great, but you're certainly not going to get everything out of it at low volume. So perhaps in the future, I'll do a low watt version as well, a 1 watter, a 3 watter maybe, something like that. We'll see. But yeah, it's one of those circuits that I'm convinced the best is yet to come. There's still more to be found out of those. It's a very simple circuit, and often the simpler the circuit, the more tone there is to be found. So we'll see. We'll look into that. But yeah, really cool idea. Gavin says, have you ever worked on a Hughes and Kettner 20th edition combo? I don't think so. Don't think I've had one through the shop. I have a problem where if I turn up the volume, it dies off, no sound, and then comes back. Now that is a classic parasitic oscillation, which means you need to get that thing fixed fast. Now it could be, well, that particular symptom can often be fixed simply by swapping valves. So roll some different preamp valves in. I don't know the circuit, but I'd assume you want to at least swap out V1 and V2, assuming they sit either side of the volume control. Is it the volume? To see if that makes any difference. But if that doesn't fix it, it's time to take that thing to a tech, because that's a classic symptom of an ultrasonic oscillation. And that amp will cook itself to death, so get that fixed quickly. Buzzed Aldrink, and I think he probably was when he wrote this message, Lyle at Sonic is a know-it-all who needs to go away. His condescending attitude is annoying. He thinks he's the only one who knows anything about amplifiers. Well, first of all, you know how I feel about comments like that. There's no need for it. If you don't like somebody's channel and it's not for you, just don't watch it. It's not compulsory. Second of all, I don't agree with you. Lyle is a fantastic diagnostician. He treats nearly every single amplifier that I've seen on his channel with the utmost respect. He makes good suggestions of improvements and how to, especially when it comes to upgrades, not just tonally but for reliability as well. So no, I completely disagree with you. And yeah, perhaps have a think about what you comment on somebody's channel before you do so. And finally, all the numbers says a very general question. What makes the difference between guitar amp and a bass amp? Is it just EQ? If we're talking about valve amplifiers, then no. And if we're talking about solid state amplifiers, then no, it's not just EQ. On a fundamental level, they are essentially the same things. They're amplifiers. Their job is to take a really small signal and to amplify it up to a point where it can be heard. Now, the approach to that is very different because, as you all know by now, because you watch this channel regularly, bass frequencies require vastly a much higher amount of power to generate those frequencies at the same perceived volume level, which is why you'll often see you'll need a bass amp that's 10 times the power of a guitar amplifier in to get the same volume level. So you might be gigging with a 50 watt amp, but your bass player in your band, his amp, it has to be 500 watts to achieve the same sort of volume level. Bass frequencies need a lot more power to be generated. Look at it the other way, treble frequencies need far less power to generate at the same volume level. So bass amplifiers often need more power. Okay, now as amplifier design has gone on, guitar players want more overdrive and distortion, and they want more harmonics and tone. Bass players have kind of gone the other way, and they've gone for that more hi-fi sound. So these bass amplifiers generally have got cleaner. They want cleaner reproduction, more accurate reproduction of their original tone. So now you've got bass players playing 1,000 watt lunchbox heads, and these things don't distort at all. It's more hi-fi than it is lo-fi. So your approach to bass stuff now, especially in that world, is very different to guitar amp design. Now, a 200 watt valve bass amp is very heavy. Bass players don't want that. They want the lightest thing possible. Whereas a 200 watt solid state bass amp is very light, right? So that's why they've moved into solid state and Class D stuff as well. They want that different sound, different way of approaching their tone, which is interesting, right? So it's not just EQ. Now EQ is a big part of it because you are obviously we're working with frequencies that are 1 or 2 octaves lower than guitar goes to. But as I've said before, incredibly, the secret to good bass tone is all about top end. The treble frequencies that are generated have to be right. So you're not just EQing down below, you are working really hard on your EQ stuff and your frequencies up top. Because if you don't have good top end on a bass amp, it has that we've all heard it, that kind of effect where it sounds like it's in the room next door, which is what you don't want. So you've got to have that presence, you've got to have that top end clarity. So yeah, it's an interesting way of doing things. But yeah, it's not just EQ. There's a lot to think about with bass stuff. So In fact, you could probably write a whole book on the differences if you really want to get into it. But yeah, I hope that helps. I hope that explains and gives you some sort of insight into the differences. But yeah, it's really, really interesting when you look at bass stuff versus guitar and the differences and how designers approach this stuff. Cool. Great question. And that's it. We're done. 2024 is over. I hope you all had a wonderful one. If you're out gigging tonight, good luck. Have a great set. Play your best. Make love to your instrument. All that kind of stuff. I hope it all goes well for you. I want to say a big thanks to every single customer that I've had this year. Whether you bought an amplifier, whether you bought a pedal, whether you brought an amp in for service or repair, whoever you are, thank you so much. You know I appreciate it. A big thanks to every single one of you that tuned in and watched my ramblings every week on YouTube. I love creating this stuff for you guys. It's fantastic. In fact, it's brought a whole new level of enjoyment to my job, which, I mean, what am I now in? This is my 12th year of Rift, doing it full time. And yeah, it's given me a completely different outlook on the business and how I go about working. I just enjoy doing it. It's fantastic. And every single one of you guys who've tuned in, who's hit that like button, who's subscribed, who joined the channel, all of you, you're just amazing. Whether you like the stuff or not that I do, I still appreciate you tuning in. I don't appreciate some of the nasty comments, but you know, that's YouTube. Pete and Ore, Danish Pete, once said to me, for every one person that likes the stuff you're doing on YouTube, there are 3 people who don't and will be incredibly rude about it. And I have tried, and I do try, as you know, to create an environment where we're all nice to each other, where we get on, where we help each other out and give each other advice. Just create a nice place to come along and watch what I'm doing here in the workshop, maybe learn a thing or two as we go along. And all of those people who don't take part and don't want to do that, don't have to, can go elsewhere. Whether it's working or not, who knows? Excuse me. But yeah, overall it's been fantastic. I've had a good year. Overall, the business hasn't gone under, as so many others have. And so long may it continue. So I do hope you have a good New Year's Eve. I do hope you've enjoyed your year. I do hope you're all going to come back next year, buy something from me, bring something in for service, tune into the videos, take part, enjoy, learn something, and just generally be all good people. So, signing off for the final time this year. Please give this video a thumbs up. All your comments and questions down below. Subscribe if you haven't already. I'm really, really close now. I think we're less than 200 subscribers away from 5,000, which would just blow my mind if we get there. If you're feeling super generous and you want to support me financially, you can do for just $2.99 a month by joining the channel like these guys have, and I will catch you all at the next one. I forgot to say something. If you are thinking about ordering an amplifier, and I hate to do these kind of sale pushes, but I need to, I put my prices up every year on the 1st of January. They don't always go up, sometimes they go down, sometimes they stay the same, but I look at the current cost of buying in components, and building them, you know, the running costs of the business, and I recalculate once a year my prices. Unfortunately, most of them are going up. Not all of them, but most of them are going up, and not by much, but you know, there is a price increase there because, you know, I have to I'm not trying to make more money. I'm just trying to avoid making less money. Yeah, I think that's a fair and reasonable way to do it. I'm not trying to be a millionaire running this business. I'm just trying to make a living. So when my costs go up, I sometimes I can swallow them, but most of the time, I have to do this thing. So this is your final warning. I did put this out on social media yesterday, but you have until midnight tonight, and I will extend that slightly for those in North America, to order your amplifier at the 2024 prices. But from when I wake up on New Year's Day tomorrow, I will be revising those prices and putting those on the website. So this is kind of your final warning. If you think about ordering an amplifier and you want to save yourself a few quid, do it today before your midnight, and you'll get to secure the current prices, even if the amplifier is delivered in 2025 or even 2026 if you're ordering an Ainsley Lister signature. Further to that, if you've got some cash in the bank and it's burning a hole in your pocket and you want to get it spent, I'm offering a further 10% off the bill if you can pay in full up front. So, and you just use the code NYE, New Year's Eve, at the checkout, and as long as you pay in full, I'll accept that order. So yeah, that's my offer to you. If you want to order a Rift amplifier, do it tonight so you don't suffer the 2025 prices. And if you can pay in full, I will give you a further 10% off. See you soon.